Eculastics, chapter 3 and 4. There is a time for everything, a season for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to rebuild, a time to carry and a time to laugh, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to scatter and a time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to run away, a time to stretch and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be quiet and a time to speak up, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What do people really get from all their hard work? I have thought about this in connection with the various kinds of work God has given people to do. God has made everything beautiful for His own time. He has planned eternity in the human heart. But even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. So I conclude that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to enjoy themselves as long as they can, and people should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor, for these are gifts of God. And I know that whatever God does is final. Nothing can be added to it or taken from it. God's purpose in this is that people should fear Him. Whatever exists today and whatever will exist in the future has already existed in the past, for God calls each event back in its turn. I also noticed that throughout the world there is evil in the courtroom. Yes, even the courts of the law are corrupt. I said to myself, in due season God will judge everyone, both good and bad, for all their deeds. Then I realized that God allows people to continue in their sinful ways so He can test them. That way they can see for themselves that they are no better than animals. For humans and animals better than animals, for humans and animals both breathe the same air, and both die. So people have no real advantage over the animals. How meaningless. Both go to the same place, the dust of which they came, and to which they must return. For who can prove that the human spirit goes upward and the spirit of animals go downward into the earth? So I saw that there is nothing better for people than to be happy in their work. That is why they are here. No one will bring them back from death to enjoy life in the future. Again, I observed all the oppression that takes place in our world. I saw the tears of the oppressed with no one to comfort them. The oppressors have great power and the victims of helpless. So I consoled that the dead are better off than the living, and most fortunate of all of these who were never born, for they have never seen all the evil that is done in the world. Then I observed that most people are motivated to success by their envy of their neighbors, but this too is meaningless, like chasing the wind. Foolish people refuse to work and almost strive. They feel it is better to be lazy and barely survive than to work hard, especially when in the long run everything is so fatal. I observed yet another example of meaninglessness in our world. This is the case of a man who is all alone without a child or a brother, yet who works hard to gain as much wealth as he can. But then he asks himself, who am I working for? Why am I giving up so much pleasure now? It is also so meaningless and depressing. Two people can accomplish more than twice as much as one. They get a better return for their labor. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But people who are alone when they fall are in real trouble. And on a cold night, two under the same blanket can gain warmth from each other, but how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. There are even better for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. It is better to be a poor but wise youth than to be an old and foolish king who refuses to advise. Such a youth could come from person and succeed. He might even become king through he was born in poverty. Everyone is eager to help. such a youth even to help him take the throne. He might become the leader of the millions and be very popular. But then the next generation grows up and rejects him. So again, it is all meaningless, like chasing the wind.